Hi guys.
Hi.
Everybody, we're going live. We're just doing some technical things. We're totally getting there. I'm Holly with Prairie, and we're here for our Prairie Circle chat. And we're just waiting for Mindy to join us. It should be just a moment. Diana was the quick joiner. She got here first. Hi, Mindy.
Hello.
Hey guys. Okay, here we are. So welcome everyone to our Prairie Circle chat. We're here just to learn, educate, support, and just really share our awesome Prairie Circle world because we get to work with these amazing folks every single day. And sharing just a little bit of their world with you is really what we're all about. And thank you so much for joining us today. So with that, let's take it away. I'm Holly. I'm the CEO here at Prairie. We make versatile, sustainable bras that are pretty awesome, that we love, and hopefully help people feel better and get better. And with us today, we have two amazing humans, Diana and Mindy. And if you could each introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about you, that would be awesome. And Diana, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I'm Diana Gregoriades. I am in New Jersey. I am a fitness trainer, nutrition specialist. I was diagnosed with breast cancer about 5 months now, I want to say, at 34. I'm 35 now, but I am currently post-treatment. I had a double mastectomy, currently with expanders. So I do go for my reconstruction, second part of my reconstruction next month. And I also do have the BRCA1 gene mutation. So I will also be getting a full hysterectomy with ovary removal during my reconstruction surgery as well.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
I'm Mindy. I was diagnosed at age 29 with stage 2 breast cancer. That was back in 2016. So in the best way, that feels forever ago. But yesterday at the same time. So so I had underwent chemotherapy, radiation, mastectomy, had complications from radiation that impacted my healing from my exchange surgery when it came time for my breast reconstruction. So had to have a revision surgery. And so I have some asymmetry that we've chatted about before on prior Prairie Circle chats. But yeah, I completed my 5 years of hormonal suppression therapies back in August of 2021. So I've just been living life since then. I'm a medically based speech language pathologist here in Southwest Missouri, and that and farm life at home takes a lot of my time, and I enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And I think what we'd like to talk about today and just share a little bit about your journeys for sure. And I think also specific to what makes that journey unique to you and what we can offer people in our community. And in fact, Diana, before you came on, Mindy, one of the things that she brought up is looking at your Instagram, something that she learned and had a question about. And that's really what we're here, guys. Put the questions in chat. We may or may not get to them. This half an hour goes so fast, but we always reach back out and make sure that things are covered off if someone has a question. These two guys have amazing Instagrams, so check them out. If you have questions, I'm sure you can reach out because we are here to support and educate. And so I think with that too, what I wanted to share and looking at both of you in terms of what I find such a great synergy is there's such a dedication to forward movement and action, and not just physical, but also emotional. And I think there's a really cool connection there in addition to being under 40 and diagnosed with cancer. So I think that's something I'd like to hear a little bit about as well. And I just forgot my question. I'm going to go that's menopause. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah. So I just recently started ovarian suppression injections. I just had my second one 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And it's really hard. I think that's one of the challenges of going through breast cancer in your 20s and 30s is you can potentially be in a medically induced menopause. I'll be in a surgically induced menopause soon. And it's permanent and forever. And right now it's very hard because I'm experiencing like a lot of joint pains and hip pain, back pain. And, you know, it's like a lot of things all at once when I'm trying to remain as active as I can. Because to me, movement is medicine, and it's what keeps me happy and going. But it's also really hard. But going through, and this is what I was telling Holly, that I ended up going through a rabbit hole down your Instagram and just seeing, you know, your different videos of when you were going through the same journey of your injections and going through menopause, and, you know, trying to stay active and trying to remain healthy, both for your bones and, you know, heart. It's good to see that like you're out on the other side. And although I'm not going to ever be in your position of being out on the other side, it's good that you found ways to cope during that time, which really helps women like me.
Yeah, and it was very, very tough. So with the ovarian suppression injections, I actually did those for almost 6 years. It was a total of 66 monthly injections.
Wow.
Because we started the first day of chemo, and not entirely sure if that's still common practice. My oncologist told me back whenever I was last in earlier this year that standard of care for my particular situation has changed twice since my diagnosis. So, you know, taking all this with a grain of salt, yeah, being thrust into that medically induced menopause was very, very tough. It's like the body doesn't have that slow progression into menopause, which typically happens when it, you know, happens more, you know, later, more naturally. So it's just like full throttle, and there's so many adaptations that feel nearly impossible. And it was really, really tough. There were times, I think 2.5 years in, where I was ready to stop. Like, I didn't feel like I was myself in my skin. It was really, really tough. And mental health was a struggle then too. And I remember just sharing this anecdote, but I remember sitting in my oncologist's office, and I was kind of giving him the lead in talk to, I'm ready to throw in the towel on the ovarian suppression. And he asks me, he says something to the effect of like, okay, well, when do you want to stop? And when he said that, I said, hey, wait a second, what? And so once he put the ball in my court, and I realized that like I do have some power over my situation, I do have some locus of control, that like flipped this wild switch in my head. And I said, no, I'm not quitting. I'm doing it. And so that was such a pivotal moment for me. But having gone through, you know, I was a competitive runner before my diagnosis. You know, I'm used to being able to move and move fast without pain. And, you know, to be experiencing everything you're describing with the joint pain, the aches, you know, you couple that with the fatigue and you throw in there some weight gain, it makes it really, really hard. But that's why I still share my story, because I just want to be an example that it is doable, you know, and that we can. And, you know, we do hard things here, and it one day at a time, one day at a time.
That's exactly what I say too. One day at a time, and we can do hard things. And that's all you can do, is just focus on day to day, because if you focus on tomorrow or next month or how much longer you have to go of whatever it is that you're going through, you're never going to make it. It's, you know, the fear of the unknown, of the future, could potentially stop you from all the good things in life.
Absolutely. And I feel like one thing that was helpful for me on the mental part of it was I did not count down. I did not count down how many injections I had left in the plan until probably when I was under 10 left. People would ask me how much longer I had on the medications. And I just sort of refused to entertain the idea. I got to a point where I just automatically said, I don't know, whenever the 5 years is up. And I would just pivot to the next part of that discussion. And that was really helpful for me, it was not having that countdown, because that just felt really ominous to have a double-digit number.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm so grateful for women like you that are so open with their journey. And that's also why I wanted to be open with mine. Because when I was diagnosed, I felt very alone. You know, I don't have any friends who are diagnosed. I didn't know anything about breast cancer. I almost felt very like oblivious to everything. And it was a very small world that now is a very big part of my world. And I'm like, nobody really knows about this. And also, I didn't have a history of breast cancer or anything. And then I slowly started to find pages here and there through Facebook and Instagram, and just finding other women and seeing them on the other side brought me a lot of hope. And I think that's what Mindy does to a lot of women that are diagnosed today, which is amazing.
Thank you. You know, it can be a very isolating disease too, you know, bringing in the part about our age, you know, having been diagnosed under 40. I think for me too, you know, the social media breast cancer community, Instagram, it wasn't a thing back when I was diagnosed in 2016. I don't really feel like that even became something that was even in formation until closer to 2018. So I always think back of how isolated I felt initially. I had a wonderful mentor who was older than me and still a great friend, different type of breast cancer. And if it hadn't been for her, I don't know how I would have gotten through that, because there was not a community. I felt like an alien, you know, whenever I would present to certain support groups and things like that. I'd wind up crying my whole way home because I just felt so alone. And that is part of what fuels me and drives me too, is to kind of try to leave those little breadcrumbs of hope around the internet, hoping someone, you know, newer, you know, can find that, just to be an example that there can be better ahead.
Mm-hmm. And that you're not alone, that there is this amazing community. One of the things we love so much is just this embrace that the community has for everyone and anyone. And I love that. So I think there's your person out there, there's your resource, there's a connection, there's a way to find someone that you can connect with. And that part is why we do what we do. And so when you were saying being able to find this and find that you're not alone, Mindy, I hope your heart swelled, because I feel like that's your mission.
It really is.
That's one of the things that you do, why you do this, is to make sure that people feel like they have, that just gave me shivers, that they feel connected and supported. And we just really love that about you.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for your kind feedback there and for seeing my heart through it all.
Yeah. Well, and you do have farm animals, which is close to my heart. So it already puts you up, you know, a couple of notches.
Well, thanks.
On the peg. No, I'm just kidding. But it is really special. And I think for kind of opening up that world and that community, the other thing that I appreciate that I said at the top about both of you is not only transparency and sharing where you're at, but also giving some tips about how you move forward each day, whatever that looks like, without judgment. Just that you've made this determination, you're going to move forward, whatever that looks like. And it's not denying where you're at, but it's understanding where you can be. Does that make sense? Absolutely. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Okay.
Yeah. You can start, Mindy.
Well, you know, for me, I tend to be a very black and white thinker. There's not a lot of gray to me. And early on, I identified that I can either do as best I can through this and do everything I can to support my health, people around me, and just to get through this and thrive on the other side, or I can spiral. You know, I felt like there was a point where I had a choice. And I know that sounds like a gross oversimplification, but it was the whole, you know, Robert Frost, two paths diverged in a yellow wood. Like I had a choice to make. And so, you know, that was when I decided to just like burst out of my comfort zone. I was always a deeply private person pre-diagnosis. I did not share my personal thoughts, feelings with anyone for any reason. And so I just charged out of my comfort zone and began to share. And I've just found it so liberating, I guess you could say. I have no idea where I was going with that, but
for me, I decided that I was going to continue to live my life the same way that I was living it prior to diagnosis. I wasn't going to allow my diagnosis to define me. I didn't want to be defined as somebody who stopped doing what they were doing because they were diagnosed with breast cancer, regardless of whatever treatment was going to be. I was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer, so chemo was up in the air at first. I did have a lumpectomy, and then that was unsuccessful, which I was planning on having radiation. So a lot of, you know, different things happened for me along the way, and then finally diagnosed with the BRCA1 gene mutation. But regardless of not knowing what my treatment, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I think that gave me the inner power that I needed to continue to keep going. And I showed up every day, regardless of what it was, for me, for my family, for my friends, for the group of girls that, you know, I train. You just have to keep going. You cannot allow a little moment of darkness. And although it is a very big moment of darkness, because like that's one thing, and I commented on Mindy's video today, when you're diagnosed, you feel like you are in this like rush of darkness, and you wonder when you're going to feel happy again. But I knew that if I didn't continue to do the things that made me happy before, I was never going to get out of that hole. So I had to keep doing it. And that's why I feel like fitness has been my saving grace. I never stopped. Nothing, like, I don't want to say nothing can stop me, but you know, nothing can stop me. And I think that's what you need to focus on, focusing on things that bring you joy and that will allow you to smile within and allow you to smile when you're done doing whatever it is that you just did. And then you make.
Yeah. I saw your video, Mindy, where you're sitting out in the woods and just taking some time to get the fresh air and being around the trees. And I think that's true for a lot of situations, is find your joy and find that moment where you can find that peace. And happiness to me is kind of one of those words that could go anywhere with people, but I find, so for me, I kind of go like peace and wherever, but I think those moments are important regardless of where you're at. And I think the other piece from what I'm hearing is connection to yourself. I feel like you both are listening to yourselves and you're trusting yourself and you're saying, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And that's a big moment. You know, I think we kind of go through life sometimes thinking, especially with doctors, maybe they know better than what you do, or this person might know more than I do. But I think both of you have listened to yourself and found that way forward through the experience as well. Am I hearing that correctly?
I would say absolutely, because going through the motions just really wasn't an option. You know, when I was first diagnosed, that first day, sitting there sobbing on my couch, you know, it wasn't even my mortality that was, you know, in my face. It was the joy factor. Like, how going to be till I can laugh again? When can I smile? Like, you know, that was my big concern. That's what I was sobbing over. You know, my husband and I had, we had dinner reservations that night for our favorite restaurant, and we were just going to cancel them because obviously our day was ruined. And we sat there for a little bit, you know, then fiance, now husband. We sat there and we thought, well, what if we go? And that became a very defining moment for us. It became very symbolic. Like, we put on our, you know, we dressed up. I put on my red dress that I was planning to celebrate good news in. And we went, and, you know, we cried at dinner, and we also laughed. And that was just so symbolic of how we would choose to move forward. Mm-hmm. You know, there are so many choices we have along the way. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we just grasp the things that we can control. And I always say, like, never relinquish your joy. Find those things that bring you peace. For me, it's the outdoors. And, you know, like you were saying with my video, it's just, you know, this past weekend, my husband and I told him on Friday, hey, I think we should go hiking and camp. And 24 hours without cell signal can do a heart a lot of good when it comes to just having that opportunity to recenter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
And I was actually reading, we do have sometimes questions, and one of the questions that I was really interested in so far, because you're both at very different stages in your journey in life, really. What is the biggest thing to date, or what's one thing that you've learned that you would want to share with other people about yourself or about your journey? Is that a huge question?
It is, but also I think you learn along the way that you're tougher than your struggles.
That's perfect. Yeah. And that you're capable. You know, yeah. For me, that's what I've learned is, you know, I had a lot of insecurities pre-diagnosis, and it's like, I didn't know, I had no concept of what I could do, what I could power through, what I could overcome, what I'm still overcoming. But I was able to demonstrate to myself
Mm-hmm.
that I'm capable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Extremely capable.
hard to imagine yourself being tougher than the struggle at the beginning. But as each day goes by, you feel so strong and empowered and like you can do all of the hard things. So I think that's the number one thing. It's, you know, those feelings are temporary at the beginning. Just like anything else, you know, happiness is also temporary. You're going to have an emotional roller coaster all the time. But I think, you know, you have to remind yourself that whatever it is that you're feeling, feel it out. Of course, you're gonna cry. I couldn't speak about this. It still brings tears to my eyes, to be honest. But I couldn't speak about it before without bawling, you know. And it was like I learned to be able to feel that and release it. And then you understand, like, okay, I got this, and I'm okay. We're gonna move on. I'm happy again, and happiness is my choice at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's good. That's a good takeaway for anyone in anywhere, is that we have this moment to make that decision. And one of the things that was said early on, I keep seeing it scrolling through in the comments, we can do hard things.
Yes.
We can.
And we prove that every day, multiple times a day,
Yeah.
too. It's kind of like we build our portfolio for ourselves, and
Yeah.
we put it to ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's not the good vibes only. It's like, take a look at where you're at, acknowledge it, and make a decision on where you want to go with it. Because you know what? Sometimes things really suck, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's where do you want to stay with that, and where do you want to go with it? And I'm hearing there's lots of choices to be made, and kind of moving forward. So yeah, that's my big takeaway from what you guys are saying, is make that decision for yourself in that moment. And I think also be kind to yourself, because I'm hearing definitely that space for yourself to be where you need to be, and acknowledge that as well.
Give yourself a lot of grace, I think, because even though you want to be the strongest every day, you're not going to be. Some days are going to be harder than others, and I think you need to allow yourself to be a little weak some days, and that's okay. You know, it's part of life. It's part of being human. But you don't allow yourself to sit in the hole. You have to get yourself out.
And it's those lowest parts where, you know, we're building our character, where we're empowering ourselves, where we're getting stronger at those lowest parts. And I feel like you have to have those low parts to be able to recognize the good, to be able to appreciate the good days the way that a lot of us can, you know, through this journey too. But I'm 100% one of those people who've always said, you know, I need to stop and I need to feel this. I need to experience this, you know, all facets of it, because, you know, I can't afford for it to come back up later and haunt me in a way if I coped with it and dealt with it. Not that things don't, you know, rear their heads again, but, you know, I just think there's a lot to be said for dealing with our emotions and feeling them and experiencing them to the fullest in real time.
Yeah. Vulnerability is a big deal. It's hard to be vulnerable, and I think it takes that vulnerability to feel those feelings, and to not judge yourself for that as well. And then for you guys to share that on an open platform, that's some courageous stuff, ladies. That's some pretty awesome stuff. So what you're doing is not only empowering others, it's extremely courageous. I really appreciate that so much, like in my heart, so much.
You know, if
so
one other person can feel seen, or can identify with that, then it's all worth it, you know, for them to be able to sleep better tonight or have a different way to look at things. You know, it's all worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really. There's a challenge that I wanted to bring up, because Mindy and I are both on different sides of it. but it is a huge challenge for women in their 20s and 30s who are diagnosed, and it's kids. So you either are at an age where you don't have kids and are planning a family, and then you're hit with a diagnosis, or you have young kids, and both come with unique struggles. And, you know, for me, it was trying to find childcare, and I was home with my baby, and, you know, my mom sitting in the parking lot at appointments while my husband and I were inside, you know, like you have to try to make it work. And then there's the flip side of things where you wonder, will I be able to have kids? You know, I can't speak to that, but there's so many women who their number one concern is, will I be able to have kids? So I think that's a huge struggle for women who are diagnosed at an earlier age, that I really wanted to bring up, because I know Mindy can speak to the other side of things where, you know, she wants to have kids and have a family, and that was obviously a huge concern for her.
Totally agree. And, you know, that's been a challenge too, that unknown. And I try not to call it fear of the unknown, but, you know, just accepting the unknown. And, you know, me personally, over the past, you know, I'd say 6 months, you know, I've kind of reached a place of acceptance where, you know, if that's not in the cards for my husband and I, you know, to have children, like, that's okay. You know, it may not be meant for us. And if it's not meant for us, why would we want something that's not meant for us? And that's okay. And that's where, you know, that was sort of the thought with the inception of our little farm we have too, because, you know, we knew it was going to be a while, you know, with the 5+ years of medically induced menopause, we were certainly on a different schedule. And, you know, building our little funny farm, as we call it, you know, that sort of helped to fill a void in that we've been able to really nurture them. And we've been able to love our critters. Our family is whole as it is. We're not incomplete. Our family just looks a little different than most, you know. Not every family has an alpaca and a llama, but ours does. And that just may be how it is for us. And that's okay. It's really okay. But if it happens for us, if, you know, that does happen, then we will embrace that too. It's just where we're at. You know, I think peace is a very important thing to hold close, and, you know,
and acceptance, which you keep mentioning, you accept it. So I think that's a big thing, acceptance, not just of the future, but also of your current situation.
And okay.
Yeah, once you accept something, it allows you to move forward.
100%. Yes, you captured that perfectly.
Yeah. Guys, that is already a half an hour, which is crazy. It always goes so fast. And I think I have so many questions, which I'm going to reach out with later, because Diana, this was the first time that I got to meet you, and I feel like I have so many questions, so I'm definitely going to send you an email. And Mindy, I had a comment on one of your posts, so I'm going to go ahead and send that. And for those of you joining us, please check out these two amazing humans and find your people. There's such great people out there. If you have questions, definitely you can send them to us. We will give you any resource that we have available. And we're just really here to support our Prairie Circle and our community with great education. And thank you all for joining us so much. And thank you, Mindy and Diana, for opening your hearts and sharing and being transparent. And one of my takeaways, which I wrote down, is movement is medicine. I love that. I don't know, I've never heard that in all of my time, so I wrote that one down. And we can do the hard things.
Yes,
so
we can.
So those are two kind of inspirational things for me.
This one, but I had told Lauren, the Prairie wear bras make me feel safe.
Oh my God.
Working out, during recovery, they make me feel so safe, and she loved that. She's like, I have to write that down. So I wanted to share that with you, because
thank you.
I love them.
Yeah, same. I have the Hugger Vita and the Luma, and I would tell you that I will not wear another sports bra for high impact exercise or anything of the sort for my run.
Ones that are for higher impact, they're so uncomfortable because they're that like harder material. And like I do have a few from like Under Armour and things like that. Yeah, and they're so uncomfortable. But yours are perfect for high impact, like running. I've been running with my expanders. It's great. They're amazing, and they make me feel safe, so comfortable, and I love them.
For that. will not.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for that. That's why we do what we do, as I'm sure you both already know. It's pretty close to our hearts. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
The thought and knowing, you know, our unique needs goes into all of the designs. So
That's true. It really does. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Mwah.
It was great.
thank you for
Thank
See
you.
you again soon. Bye, guys.